Hi, welcome to Loud Women Talking. So this is a monthly series of LinkedIn Lives where I invite fabulous women on to chat about all things business, purpose, impact, and women that are perhaps going against the grain, doing things differently, forging their own path, in the hope that it inspires other women who also don't want to follow the kind of standard trajectory and want a little bit of inspiration about how they can show up and be loud women. So this month, we have Michelle. I'm so excited about this. All of my guests are fabulous. You and I are going to be talking about being loud women online. And we're going to be getting into some deep stuff. There's going to be some heavy topics, just to warn everyone. And we are also going to try and have a little bit of brevity around it as well. But I'm going to hand over to you, Michelle, to tell everybody who you are, as if they don't already know.
But they don't. All of them. So yes, hi. Thank you very much for having me on. And I've got a naturally quite a loud voice, and I've spent my entire life like trying to be quiet, which is really hilarious. But anyway, so yes, I am an organizational psychologist, a coach, and the author of the book Good Girl Deprogramming, which is behind me. Yeah, one of the sides. That online thing is really interesting because being an organizational psychologist, we have professional bodies that kind of dictate how we should behave. So yes. I think for psychologists, I think we're generally quite worried about what we put out online because the general public are protected from us effectively by the BPS. So yeah, it's interesting.
So you have to think about what you can't just, like I do, just jump on and rant and say whatever I like. You represent the body, so you have to be more sensitive and careful about sharing what you say online.
Yeah, there's a moment of like, what would happen if I was dragged into some sort of ethics committee? What would that look like? So there are psychologists that are way more out there than I am. So I just need to sort of follow their lead, I suppose.
I guess, do you feel like that though before you hit post and go, if I was to be called into the ethics committee, what would I say? Could I justify this? Yeah. I think so. I mean, being a woman, especially online, talking about gender politics and gender equality, you're immediately going to attract a fair amount of negativity. Let's just put it like that, shall we?
Yeah.
So I guess, I think you have this extra layer of consideration because it is a topic that does spark people and spark discussion and get people upset. So I can imagine if there's probably other topics where you could perhaps be a bit more outspoken and you wouldn't necessarily spark the kind of response that we get when we talk about gender equality.
No, I think there's a certain breed of human. Don't want to go straight to the misandry there, but there's a certain breed of human that almost is looking, when you look for something, where you say, oh, I'm looking to get a new car. You did a really good TikTok about your Fiat 500. So yeah, as soon as you start going, want to look for a new car, all of a sudden, all the adverts are cars and all of the cars you pass are Fiat 500s.
Yes.
And I think there's a certain level of people just looking for that content, following the hashtags just so that they can be dicks about it.
Yeah, just trying to hurt their own feelings and then blaming you for it. Yeah. This is a really interesting thing that I find. Now, obviously on places like TikTok and Facebook, when you go onto Facebook, like the people on Facebook are just terrible for the comments that they leave. But I see this more and more on LinkedIn as well, that people are stopping by your post just to tell you that they don't like your post. They're like, I don't want to see this on my feed. And you get the like, this isn't Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, they stop by and say, I don't want to, stop and spend time commenting to let you know that they don't want to see your content on their feed. And I just think this is such an interesting mindset to feel entitled to walk through the world and never see anything that you're not interested in or you don't like.
And the absolute bonkers part of it is you are responsible for curating your own feed. So if you don't like something, you can just tell the algorithm you don't like it. You can literally press the buttons and like unfollow, not this kind of topics,
Yeah.
So we're not here to entertain you. It's pretty much,
yeah.
It's like,
it's actually one of my favorite things to do when people comment and say, oh, not this again. Why, this just seems to be on my feed all the time. I'd like to point out to them, I said, just the fact that you've now commented on this post means the algorithm's going to send you more stuff. It's just, you can press the little button that says not interested or block. That's a much better way of telling the algorithm you don't want to see it. But yeah, commenting.
They have to announce that they are leaving. Or
I'm going to block you. No, please do.
Yeah,
I think
enjoy.
I
Have a
said,
good life.
Yeah, I said I had the woman that posted on I did a post comparing forks.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
I have a fork.
Yeah.
I have a special fork.
So many people have a fork.
I don't know where it came from. It's a magical fork.
It is. Yeah. I have one that I'll use. I have my set of forks that I will use. And if it's not available, if it's in the dishwasher dirty, I will take it out and clean it rather than use any of the reject forks. So I shared a post asking other people to rate my forks. And someone stopped by and said, oh, this isn't, why is this on Facebook? Why is this on LinkedIn? This isn't Facebook. And I responded, said, well, you probably should block me then, because next week I'm doing teaspoons.
I enjoyed the teaspoons one.
Yeah. Now you've commented, you're probably going to see it. But let's talk about Good Girl Deprogramming. Let's talk about the book. Talk a little bit about what the book is about first.
So it's all about all of the different ways that women and girls are trained to behave, and rather devastatingly, all of those ways are tools of coercive control. So it sounds like a really heavy book, and it is, because I wrote a lot. There's 84,000 words in it, but it's stories, and it's not one of those, I'm going to stand here and I'm the guru of everything about this and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. It's just full of questions that you can ask yourself, because I am not in the place that I can dictate and replace your good girl conditioning with Michelle Minnikin's conditioning. That's just not what I'm here for.
Yes, so you can't replace one belief system with another that's given by somebody else. And you're right. I think I find questions are the most powerful way to help people free their mind from the cages around them, is to just simply ask those questions and let them get there by themselves, not spoon feed any answers or tell them what they should think or what they should do. So where did the idea for the book come from?
So to cut a very long story very shortly, I found out that I had ADHD just before my 42nd birthday, got really cross about it, went to coaching and counselling because being angry is not a socially acceptable emotional state for women, it turns out. So of course that scared the shit out of me. So I went to literally pointing to where my coaching counsellor lives. Just in Northumberland, just up the road. And
it's close.
And at the same time, I was doing a coaching qualification with an amazing coach in California, and she just happened to mention. So I'd read, it's Tara Moore. She wrote a book called Playing Big, and I'd read the book a number of times, and I'd tell all of my coaching clients to buy it and read it, and because it's really good. So I was training with her, and she just happened to mention the 3 words good girl conditioning, because I was still raging about the whole ADHD thing in terms of what would my life have looked like if I'd known this information sooner. And I was but able to sort of figure out the sort of the ADHD bits for me and the sort of what's kind of really, really me. But then there was this other thing, and I didn't know what it was. And that was all around the sort of the people pleasing and the fawn fear response and the putting other people first, not having any boundaries, not being able to say no, trying to be nice and kind to everybody and all of that crap.
Yep.
And so I was like, that's not ADHD. What is all of that?
Yeah.
So when Tara said the 3 words, good girl conditioning, which I actually looked later, is in her book a lot, but it clearly didn't go in. It's like, oh. And being a good psychologist, I was like, right, so there's this thing called good girl conditioning. I need to research the living daylights out of it, but also try to figure out why, how does this happen? And found so I was thinking, well, it's about the patriarchy, it's about brainwashing, we're all in this massive ridiculous cult. And I was like, okay, fine, what happens to cult members? How do they get deprogrammed? And so I went down the whole kind of cult thing, and something mentioned this chap called Albert Biderman. I was like, following the curiosity rabbit hole, and came across what he did. So in the 1950s, during the Korean War, so many American prisoners of war were defecting to China. And this is all a kind of McCarthy era. Everybody was having kittens about, communism and socialism in America. So that was a really big problem. So the American military powers that be wanted to figure out whether the Chinese had a magical brainwashing machine. Of course, they would not have used it for any nefarious purposes if they found one. So Albert and his team went and interviewed loads of the prisoners of wars and found out that, in fact, they didn't have a magical mystery brainwashing machine, but they did have various tools of coercive control, which obviously is used. Somehow this all stuff just magically, people just know it for some reason, because it's used a lot in domestic violence, etc.
Yeah.
So Albert Biderman, I was trying to just shorten his name to one word, had this like a taxonomy of coercion, and I printed it off, and I was like, I wonder if this is what it is. This is how we're conditioned. And literally within half an hour, I had written for every single tactic how this sort of manifests in women, and what the sort of, why is it a problem? So I went from, oh, look at me, I'm very curious, and I found out all this information, to absolute devastated because I felt like I found it. So I went to my coach, Karen, who incidentally became my book wing woman editor, and some general person I ranted to, because wow.
Yeah.
And we're like, surely somebody's thought of this before. We couldn't find it, so I had to write the book.
We think, I mean, even the notion of coercive control in relationships is relatively new, and it certainly wasn't mainstream, I'd say, until the last few years. And there's only now laws around it. They've only just come in very recently.
But very hard to prove.
Yeah, really hard. Yeah, of course. How do you show evidence? Like, physical violence, there are bruises, there are medical reports, but coercive control, and it's so devastating because it's not as obvious. And I think what I see is a lot of the victims themselves, even after they've left a relationship, question whether it really was that, and just question their insanity. And I've followed women on social media that have been through that journey, and years later they're still impacted by it.
Yeah, because it's a very effective way of, making the person doubt themselves. So when I talk about coercive control, I talk about how society does it.
Yeah.
And so almost in that domestic violence situation, literally they're already being coerced, women, and it's almost that just an extra teeny bit.
Do you think that, but that's what makes women more susceptible to coercive control in relationships because they've spent their entire lives being controlled.
Yeah.
Subtly and constantly into being good girls.
Yep. Everything. So parents, grandparents, schools, work, media, the whole thing. You just see what happens when a woman dares to step out of normal behavior. I say normal like this. Normal.
Yeah.
You know, I can't remember the name of the lady who got jailed in Italy because she didn't behave typically when she found her roommate had been murdered, and so she got dragged through. The American lady, I can't remember, but that's a really good example.
Yeah, the media, well, society, we demand a perfect victim.
Yeah,
we see this so often, is that we will judge women because they're not reacting the way we want them to in a given situation.
Amanda Knox. There we go. As soon as I forgot what her name was, it's Amanda Knox. Yes. So terrifying.
Yeah.
The wrongs that have been done to women because of not acting in the right way. We can go all the way back to, witch trials and more. So pretty much pick a famous woman in history. She dared stand out, and look what befell her.
Yes, there were the rebels and the outliers, and it was threatened. Well, they threatened the stability of the way society was built, and women in particular. Men could do it. Men were allowed to live outside of the realm of societal structures, but women not so much. Because I think there's a fear of women gaining independence and they're not fulfilling the roles that society have deemed for them. And society does very well out of women, with the the unpaid labor and all of the extra work, and telling women they can have it all, so they kill themselves to try and raise children and work and be the perfect wife and friend and daughter and sister and mother and all of these other things that nobody could ever live up to.
No. And then when we fail, which we inevitably do because it's impossible, we blame ourselves. We're the ones that are rubbish. So we internalize that and we end up controlling ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I find so much of women's value is placed on their ability to serve others. It's about what they're doing for other people. Which is why this narrative exists for this huge increase in single childless women, and the backlash to those women is, what are you contributing to society then? You're selfish.
I know.
You could never be fulfilled. But we don't say that to men who are single and childless.
No.
Yeah. I don't think anyone said that to Leonardo DiCaprio, have they? That he's living an unfulfilled life.
No, but I'm just laughing there because I saw a meme the other day that said Google's turned 25 and now Google's too old for Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. But yes, this idea that women just can't, because women are not allowed to just simply live their lives the way they want to. No.
Everyone's got an opinion. I've spoken to a number of widows, like young widows, and wow, if they dare to act not in the way of a perfect widow, then they get some serious amounts of pushback in 2024.
What does a perfect widow act like?
Probably Queen Victoria, wearing black just the rest of her life,
never going out. Yeah. Okay, not having any fun.
No fun.
Gotcha.
Yep, just
yeah,
bonkers.
But then I think if a widow moves on like within 6 months and meets someone new, I don't think anyone finds that unappealing. But then I think
widower, you're talking about a man.
Sorry, widowers, yes.
No, because there's a very different set of standards that they're held to. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, this man now needs taking care of.
Yes, of course. He needs a woman in his life to take care of him.
So it's like who volunteers as tribute to this man?
Yeah, Christ.
on a bike.
Yeah, there's just like we could just talk about this all day. I mean that we've somehow gone down a rabbit hole. And we're now talking about widows.
That happens every time we start talking,
It's so
Felice.
much. So would you cast yourself as a feminist? Do you
Yes.
call yourself a feminist? Yeah, me too. Do you think you were a feminist before you wrote the book, or do you think that was the journey of writing the book sort of part of your feminist journey?
So what I uncovered in the book, there's like massive battles between different brands of feminists.
Yes.
So that's a tactic of coercion. And even so there's that. So divide and conquer.
Yes.
Obviously, if we're so busy fighting against other brands of feminists,
Yeah.
instead of just having, our key principles and we're all fighting the same fight,
Yes,
then we would actually do way more stuff. So I figured that out, because one of the things I always very much, I grew up in the sort of the girl power Spice Girls 80s and 90s. So
yeah,
and so it was all like an interesting brand of feminism, where there was page 3 and walking into our university roommates' rooms and naked pictures on the walls. It's like, and that was kind of, we didn't bat an eyelid.
No.
It's like smoking on planes, completely normal. So it's that, if a woman wants to be on a naked photo, have at it, enjoy yourself. There's that kind of, but I think writing the book and realizing that the word feminism and feminist, if you describe yourselves as a feminist, and the little bra burning thing, it's just another way of disparaging women. That kind of, we look down. It's a Barbie quote. I'm not saying this very well. That Barbie quote.
Yeah.
That men and women have something in common. Men hate women. Women hate women. I've bastardized that one as well.
Yes.
And it's all of that. So yes, to answer a very short question, a very long and rambling way.
Yeah.
Yes, I am a feminist. Yes, the book, writing that book made me realize that there's so much we need to do and stop fighting each other.
Yes, this has been a very effective tool of the patriarchy, is pitting women against each other and convincing women that we are in competition with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, we are so busy fighting each other. And the reason for this is because as a collective, we are half of the population. And if we all decided to move at once, we'd be a pretty unstoppable force. So
yes,
what
like
better
the Icelandic
way?
strikes. Yes.
Yeah. What better way to prevent that from happening and keep us small than to keep us in little pockets, fighting amongst ourselves and seeing each other as the enemy? And you see this, it's getting a bit better in the media, but 80s, I mean, this has been through, all of time, but growing up, all of the TV shows, movies, it's girls against girls, and it's girl on girl drama, and injury, fighting over some cretinous man. None of them were great. All of them were terrible. And yet this was presented to women as the way it is. And so we're kind of conditioned to see each other as competition.
Yep.
And it is crazy.
Especially in the workplace. Because if you think about it, there was pretty much one seat at the table in the olden days as we were growing up.
Yeah.
One seat at the table for the token woman. So so many women in the workplace got there and then pulled the ladder up behind them.
Yeah. Didn't want anyone else coming into their space.
No.
And I know that there's still a lot of that goes on, because I see, whenever I see anyone post about it, their comments are just full of women saying the same thing, that they wish other women would give them a helping hand. I sometimes struggle with this one a little bit, because I do think that in a lot of organizations and a lot of companies and a lot of structures, there is still just one seat at the table. And I think this expectation that women will give way to another woman and sacrifice their own career progression, their own goals for another woman, I think is sometimes unrealistic.
And unfair.
Yeah, because we don't expect men to do that.
Nope.
But I do think, but I don't think that's the reason all of the time. And I do think things are changing. And for so many women like me, I just decided to build my own table rather than try and compete in that world, and be someone that I wasn't in order to, progress. So I've spent my entire career being told that there's parts of me that are not ideal if I want to progress, and I should quieten that down a little bit and just make that a bit smaller and rough off that edge. And since leaving that world, all of that's now, the edges have sharpened again. I'm ready to cut some people down. No, not really. But yeah, all of that unacceptable stuff is now back out, and there's just no way. There's nowhere to go back into that world again. But now that I'm out, I can see it a lot more clearly. You can't always see it when you're in it. And I do think women still face a lot of barriers in the corporate world.
1,000%.
And in their progression.
My hypothesis for book number 2, which it's in the planning phase. I'm not allowed to start writing it this year. It's Good Girl Deprogramming at Work, because that's the sort of the perfect Venn diagram of what my actual job is. And my sort of special interest, let's say that. And it's what happens to girls and women who are leaving education, getting higher grades, doing better, are being getting more degrees, more doctors, more female doctors than male doctors are coming out of universities. What happens the second that these high-flying, successful, ambitious women hit the workplace?
Yes.
And why is it that all of a sudden we're the ones that are, have imposter syndrome, lack confidence, aren't commercial enough, aren't strategic enough? What is that? What is the context of the workplace? Bearing in mind, it was built for men by men. But what is that, and how can we make it better for everybody?
Yeah, it's kind of, what is that specific shift? Because, like you say, women, they're doing better in education. They're doing better. More women get degrees. But then the progression, once they then, because you'd think that trajectory should continue, but it doesn't. And it isn't all, we can't put it all down to women having babies. It's like nearly 40% of all women under the age of 35 don't have children, but they're out in the workplace. And we're still seeing the same lack of progression, the same gender pay gap. So we can't
I have a theory
on the babies.
I have a theory. So what gets us good grades and accolades in the education system? So that over planning, over preparing, working really hard, being perfectionistic, does not serve us as soon as we hit the workplace. And if you think about how girls are socialized versus how boys are socialized, in terms of, we need to be careful, nice, pretty, polite, and boys tend to be raised to be risk-taking and daredevils and confident and loud and proud, it's no bloody wonder when these girls and these boys end up in an organization together, the riskier behavior, the braver behavior, the more masculine behavior is way more rewarded than the perfectionists, people pleaser stuff.
Yeah. But then not if you're a woman that exhibits those characteristics.
Oh God, no, because that's Amanda Knox territory. You need to lock her up in Italy for a number of years.
So it's not the characteristics themselves, because when women are brave and bold and take risks and are confident, they're quite often smacked down.
Yeah.
But
too loud, too much, too ambitious.
It's like a different set
not
of rules.
Ladylike.
Yeah. To do well at work, we must like you. If you're a woman, to do well at work, if you're a man, you need to be bold and take risks and perform.
Talk about your achievements.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interestingly, so there's a psychologist I follow. I'm not going to name her because she has enough shit.
Okay.
But I was literally Googling her before. She wrote a really good, I love her Substack. She wrote a really good post about famous people and the trauma that they experience, because I thought it'd be interesting to send you after this. But as Googling her, I found this website, and there are hundreds of comments about her personally, professionally, appearance, qualifications, everything is criticized on this one website. And I looked, and it's like, literally, it's a way to go on the internet and slag off anybody that you don't like. And it's a socially acceptable online witch hunt. And I was like absolutely just appalled when I saw it.
Do you know what? There's a little part of me that thinks I'll know I've made it if I end up on there. I can piss off enough men that they have to go in and make a little We Hate Felice Club. Do you know what? I think I'll be pretty proud of that.
You know what's really interesting for this psychologist, this female psychologist, it was all bloody women. It's all women.
Oh, it's the call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
But again, you see that internalized misogyny and that, that need to be close to men. You see that in a lot of women. I haven't had many comments from women that are misogynistic, but generally it's in defense of men. So they'll make comments about, I'm picking on men, or I'm fueling the gender divide, or what about misandry? I never talk about that. Nobody ever talks about that.
Because it's not real, but yes.
Yeah, they're just, it's not a thing. But they're just kind of, they'll just they just parrot the same stuff that men say, but then men are just parroting the same stuff that other men say. So, there's like, I think there's a big number of women that are sort of in this space, and then there's a small little group of men. I think we've got one. I think Nick Dean he's listening in today. He's definitely one of the ones that's fighting the good fight out there. And he deals with a lot of crap. It's not just women that get crap from people online. He gets a lot of crap as well. They do love to call men simps, don't they? Men that talk about gender equality. They'll be like, well, you're just doing it for the likes, or you're trying to get women, and they're still not going to pick you, and, you're such a simp. And I had a man today said that every time all this talk about misogyny is creating effeminate men, and they're weak men, and that's why society's breaking down. I'm like, it's nothing to do with toxic masculinity then, and literally women dying. That's got nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's men that like to support women.
And that's just the gender, that's that kind of ridiculous gender expectations for men. So as much as, we've got ours and they've got theirs, but theirs are significantly more violent than ours. There's expectations and what constitutes being a man, and is so far removed from actual healthy masculinity, to the point where they're ruining the word masculinity.
Yes.
Because there's nothing inherently toxic about masculinity.
No.
It's
a certain element. Yeah, certain elements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a brand. There is a brand of masculinity, the same way that there is a brand of femininity that's toxic. Yes, there is a brand of masculinity that is toxic, but that particular brand is leading to a lot of violence and abuse of women. And terror. So, and I think this is the thing, we always try and bring it back and say it's not that these other things don't exist, or that they're not things that we should talk about, but they're not having the impact. We do need to focus on what's having the biggest impact on our society, rather than just always want to do the whataboutism.
Yes, it's like, I like potatoes. Ooh, but what about sweet potatoes? Are you telling me you don't like sweet potatoes? And like, well, I'm not talking about sweet potatoes. I'm talking about potatoes.
Yeah, I always say it like if for the when your brain just goes. British Heart Foundation was creating content, and somebody came into their feed and says, "Why are you not talking about cancer?" You know, why are you not talking about brain tumours? They kill people too. And you go, yeah, but this is the British Heart Foundation. We talk about heart stuff. You know, like it wouldn't even occur to somebody to do it, but that happens to women all the goddamn time. It's like we're talking about
Yep.
this particular issue that we want to talk about because it impacts us and we want to have an impact. You know, we want to shift things around. And it's like, why not talk about men? Why not talk about men's mental health? Why not talk about male suicide? And it's like, you know, there's nothing stopping you from
No.
from you know, creating your own social movement around
They don't
that.
have to, because they're expecting to be served on and waited on and educated themselves, instead of actually just Googling stuff like, you know,
Yes.
going to seek a therapist. They just expect somebody to
Yeah. Women.
deliver a buffet. Yes, I know. A buffet of
Yeah.
information that they
Yeah.
can choose to accept or reject.
Yes, I think
Which
we're
is
moving
insane.
seamlessly actually into the Jimmy Kimmel's mean tweets section, because I did, I had I shared a post a few weeks ago about the misogyny around, I think it was following the election, and the fact that there were equal numbers of women in the in the cabinet than men. Oof. That caused some controversy.
Yeah, and what
And
Angela Rayner was wearing on one of the most important days of her life,
oh
and how
yes,
much it was.
yes,
It's like, Jesus,
yeah.
get a grip.
It's just the way women are policed for the way they look.
That was really
Ridiculous.
funny. So I saw something. So when the sort of the Trump Harris debate happened, and they were like, oh, her earrings are like £600 from like Tiffany's. So she has absolutely no idea how the man on the street, the woman on the street, knows and how they live their life. And then somebody posted a picture of Donald Trump next to his gold-plated toilet.
Yeah.
It's like, get a grip.
Yeah. Well,
Get an actual grip.
It's I mean, Christ, we could do, we could be here all day talking about those two,
Yeah,
and the
sorry.
double standards around them. But yes, I had and I think I shared a post, and again, you know, a man came into the comments and said, instead of just fueling the fire, why don't you actually teach men, you know, or explain to men what they can do, and you know, and help men to not be misogynistic. And I just kind of went back and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not available for teaching men. It's not my job.
How much are you going to pay me to teach men for start?
It's not my job. I said,
unpaid labour, there we go.
Yeah, but he was just like, well, you know, you can't complain about it then if you're not willing to teach them. And I'm like, here are a few resources. There's Google, YouTube, there's podcasts. And I was like, literally, Google's free. You could go and research it yourself and put the effort in instead
Some
of
really good TED Talks on this stuff by men
really
who want
good.
to teach men about this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go
You don't
and
even
find them.
listen to a woman. Like, you can have a man tell you. You know, you don't have to
Absolutely.
listen to women.
No.
Yeah, and I think he came back with like, you're 100% wrong, but I don't want to destroy your worldview, cupcake. It could be cupcake.
That's a very sweet endearment.
Laugh emoji. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But this idea of, and you know, I get this all the time, because I post a lot of content, and I've recently just started a TikTok, which has been an experience.
Yes.
I get some comments on LinkedIn, but it's nothing compared to what the people on TikTok have to say.
No.
But I've settled into it now. I'm used to it. I think I've got used to the onslaught. But this idea of people get more upset about the fact that you're talking about it at all, and B, the way you said it. Even last night, I somebody else wrote a post about their experience of bullying and gaslighting at work. And this man, I think it might have been you that shared it with me, actually.
Yes. If I see anything, I'm like, I'm going to send that to police.
She can say what I can't because I'm a psychologist.
You're like Batman, but Batwoman. I'll put the bat signal up. Send you in. The Dark Avenger.
Yeah, you're not the only one, actually. Now I've gotten a little bit of a reputation for it, and other people will send me links to comments, and they're like, "Can you say something?" And this one, he'd put on, I can't remember what he said now.
I've got it here, I've written it down.
Oh yes, you read it out then. Yes.
Can we use a more normal term, please? It sounds a bit like being an arsehole to me.
For the word gaslighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think my response was, you could just Google it if you don't know what a word means.
Yeah.
But the frustrating part, and I think I did finish this off in my response to him, is he actually thanked me afterwards. So thank you for the learning opportunity. I think it was sarcastic. But my response to him was, you've just read a post where a woman has been talking about a really unpleasant experience that she went through. And instead of leaning into empathy and commenting, I'm so sorry, that sounds
It's
like it
really
was
hard.
really shit.
Yes.
Yeah. You've said, I don't like that word you've used. And that's your contribution. That's what you've chosen to take time out of your day to respond. And for me, it's a common theme, this lack of empathy. And this, I'm just going to come in and tell you that I don't want you talking about it. I don't like you talking about this. Yeah. Yeah. I had one yesterday. I put a comment out. It was a bit ranty, the post, but it was talking about child sexual assault and the fact that 14-year-old girls now make up the largest age group of women and girls reporting rape, which is fucking horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a post out and I was calling out some of the comments that had been left on this news article on Facebook, and the fact that the headline focused on how porn warps boys' brains, and that stat around girls.
Yeah. So
Buried.
the porn warps their brains, but all of a sudden the passive thing that these girls were raped.
Yeah, and it's just right.
It was
It's
never
right.
connected.
No.
It was like,
And I was like,
it
what?
was like two different things. It's like, oh well.
It's like we're leading with the apology. We're apologising for the behaviour and just not justifying it, but we're going to lead with the mitigator first. We want you to feel sorry for young boys.
The boys are victims.
Yeah.
Not
And then we're going to tell you
girls
that
passively raped.
yeah, it's 14-year-old girls getting raped because of it. But anyway, this guy and I referenced some of the recent stats that had come out of the Joint Police Commission report that estimate that 1 in 20 men pose a threat to women each year. And I think the line was something like 1 in 20 is incredibly high for all men to deny knowing any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is the story that I shared. His comment was, and he kind of quoted that line. He said, I personally disagree with this because I don't know any. And so I disagree with what that statement that you've just said there. Did you not have any feelings at all about 14-year-old girls being raped? No feelings about that at all. You just didn't like that line. You didn't like the way I said that line, that I was implying that he would just turn a blind eye. He was like, if I saw any, I'd do something about it. And I'm like, that they're not out here advertising.
No, he's just got like a rapist t-shirt walking around the pubs. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
He was just kind of like, I don't believe that's true. And I said, well, it's a fact which doesn't actually rely on your belief in it. Like, just because you don't believe it doesn't make it not true. Yeah. It still is true.
Yeah. There's still people that believe that the earth is flat though, so you kind of have to just remember that we're all absolute idiots on the planet. So
yeah. So anyway, let's get into reading a couple more. Because it's fun, isn't it? It is fun. I like it. So I'm going to get some.
So like you say you like it. The caveat is we have people around us that say, be careful. Why do we have to be careful about what we say on the internet, please?
Because there's always a chance that angry men might come after us and make threats, and very nasty threats, and may even follow through on those threats. So we do have to be a little bit careful. But it pisses me off that,
I know.
Because again, it's for a lot of women, they don't speak out because of that. They don't want to put themselves in the firing line because it is scary. But that
they see people that do, and they see the consequences, which is a tool of coercion.
Yes. But you know what I found is that even when you share content in support of men, saying, guys, you're going to benefit too, like, let's work together, it's not your fault, they're still like, fuck off. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
How dare you try and teach me? Like, you just said you wanted me to.
Yeah. It's either you're not all men. It's not all men. We get that a lot. It's not all men. It's a tiny minority. You need to stop talking about it. Or then you get in the same post, It's testosterone, men are just violent, like you're never going to solve it. And I was like, well, either it is all men or it isn't all men. Like, you guys, can you get together and agree
To figure
amongst
this out
yourself?
for me, please.
Yeah, if you're going to come at us, like, it'd be really great if there was some consistency in the argument.
No. No, and then they start picking on you for what you look like as well, which is always the fun part.
Yes. Oh, this guy said, if you are so afraid of men and keep playing the victim your whole life, that will likely be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then went on to say, you can decide to only date this one. You can decide to only date guys who are either as wussy as it gets or get fooled by guys who agree with all you say and are low character underneath. My guess, he won't respect or love either type, but go ahead and sanitize your world from all men who possess a backbone character. Things like that wasn't even on a post about like dating or anything, but that's where they go, isn't it? Talk about dating.
Yeah, it's like Boris and his ridiculous. If you don't go back to the work, don't go back to go back to the workplace. Like, Bridget Jones wouldn't have met Mark Darcy. It's like, well, turns out Bridget Jones didn't meet Mark Darcy in the workplace. She met Daniel Cleaver, who was a sex pest and an absolute arsehole. And she met Mark Darcy at her parents' leftover turkey curry Christmassy bash. And it's like, did you even get anyone to check your facts?
They can't even get their own misogyny right, honestly.
They can't.
They're terrible at it sometimes.
Yes. Because that's all we are, that's all we worth-wise. That's all we have, isn't it? To be a partner and a wife and a mother and all of that nonsense.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
That's all why women go to work for, isn't it? To find a husband.
No, this isn't Mad Men. This isn't the 1950s.
Yes. And I'm not even sure a lot of those women were also looking for husbands.
Yes, you can tell Mad Men was written by men.
Yeah, Mad Men. Like, I have watched it and I do enjoy it, but I do find in order to enjoy most TV programs or films, you do have to I really have to like pack up all my feminism and put it down over there and forget about it.
Just put it in the kitchen. Well, it's the most appropriate place for it, let's face it.
Yes, put it in the oven on a low temperature for the next 2 hours, because otherwise you can't enjoy anything. If you sometimes I do have to put my principles down for a minute if I want to enjoy a film, especially a rom-com or any kind of male-focused drama.
Yep.
All right. Have you got one to read out?
So what happened was, I started blocking people that started on LinkedIn now, because I can't, as much as it might be, fun in the moment, it also drags me down to their level. So I don't have to engage with people that are like this. So I have started blocking them. So I couldn't find a couple, but I did a post about weaponized incompetence.
Yes, you got some people on that one. Yeah.
People were really upset, but I've also blocked them, so I can't actually read them. But then I did a post on Elon Musk threatening to put a baby in Taylor Swift, and Elon stans are something, is all I can say. And so this one chap who I have now blocked said, so you chose to ignore what she first wrote about herself in a tweet. Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris, calls herself a childless cat lady. This is not misogyny in any form. It was a funny joke reply from Elon. Notice the first name use there, because they're like buddies.
As if they're friends.
Yeah. How can anyone take you serious without the Lee, because that's how you would spell that word, when you come up with this crap? And I was like, right, brilliant, excellent. So
I'll send that one to police.
Yeah, I did. I sent that. I was away. I was out for the day, I think, doing something else. And so I sent that. And when I came back, I was crying with how but then I remembered he's one of the guys that posted on the weaponized incompetence, basically telling me that I must do better and I'm just generally a shit human.
And do you know what? It's always accounts that never post anything. They have a really shit profile picture, if they have one at all. I'll do that, get that a lot, like no profile picture on LinkedIn, and they're just and then you go to their recent comments and it's just that they're just trolling the internet.
Yes, they're trolling the internet, and then they put out just boring posts about themselves, not even about themselves, about these jobs that they're hiring for. Like, as a sort of a reputational risk, this is why I love LinkedIn, because people are generally on the best behavior, because their colleagues, their clients, their customers can see them. And this guy is just like, do you not realize that if I was working in as a recruiter, internal recruiter, and I needed your help and I saw what you were posting, because when you post on somebody's post, it quite often shows up in somebody else's feed.
Yeah, we can see you.
And if you think, and you think about HR is littered, is the word, with women.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you
ideal.
like? This is, you are shooting yourself in your foot.
Yeah. But then when I responded to him, he came back and he said, in his mind, because you hadn't shared the original tweet, and he said these words, nobody has seen the original tweet that he was responding to. And I was like, I'm sorry. As you just,
It was front page news.
In his mind, he was saving us all. His job to come in and let us all know that there was another tweet that none of us had seen, and this had been taken out of context, and that he just needed to tell us all. And we go, well, in that case,
it's hilarious, threatening to put a baby in somebody.
But this attitude that we are all just, women don't have brains, they can't think for themselves, do their own research.
Bearing in mind, I put the picture from Taylor Swift's Instagram post next to it. So the whole picture was Taylor cuddling her beautiful cat.
Yeah.
Because I'm friends with Taylor, so I'm going to call her by her first name now.
Mama Swift.
And yes. Yes. And it's like, dude, and then so much, everybody in the comments of that were like, yeah, it's creepy, yeah, it's gross, he's just grosso, this is horrible. And then I'm really sorry, I actually sent you a picture of Elon on a boat with his
that was horrific.
Ruined your dinner.
That just it made my stomach turn. Thanks for that. I was like, why would you send me that? I knew it was gross.
I was grossed out, so I had to send it to somebody else.
Yeah, and the fact that this man who looks like that would say that about someone who is undeniably one of the most powerful women in the world right now, in terms of her influence and her status, and like, ugh, God. No.
And this guy then went on to say that it's all about our echo chamber, and this is because we've got an echo chamber and they're all idiots and stuff, and I have to have a better echo chamber
because we kicked all the misogynistic men out. So
yeah,
there's
loads of men commenting though.
Yeah, but they all agree with us.
Yes, so they're the simps.
They're the simps, yes.
Which is not at all a incel term, but yes.
Yeah. And they say that they'll call it an echo chamber, and they say that you just don't want to have discussion, you just want everyone to agree with you. But that's what they want. They want to be able, they expect that they will just drop their little nugget and convince everyone that what they're saying is true, and they get very upset when you don't immediately change your perspective and agree with them. But it's like, but you're not changing.
We can't debate anymore
either. No,
it's like your arguments are just naff.
Well, there's two.
Go on, you say it.
I was going to say there's two types. There's the ones that they're not approaching it. They're not looking to have a genuine conversation. They're rage baiting, and they like to pose statements and judgments with a question mark at the end, so it looks like a question, but it's not. But then you've got the people that are genuinely curious and do want to support. For those people, I have all the time patience and kindness in the world for.
Same.
If they talk to me and they want to ask questions and they might not get it right, and that's totally cool because it's all a journey. All the time in the world for those, but I'm like a Jekyll and Hyde. The other ones, they get the full force. All their anger that stirs up reading all of this shit all day, I just get to, it's like turning on a water hose and go, they get it. Because I know exactly who those people are by the questions that they ask. So I like to draw them in a little bit and then hurt their feelings.
Yeah, hurt their feelings. But if you think about it, so in terms of like human needs, trying to get their needs met, this is a power and self-worth need that they they don't have anything in their lives clearly to get that power and self-worth need from, that they have to go and pick on women on the internet, like people they don't even know. It's like, that's just sad, isn't it? Really, it's quite pathetic.
Yeah, and they drop these comments like they're real gotcha moments.
It's like, all right, Andrew Tate.
Yeah. Hey, it's the most underwhelming thing in the world. I've had
talking about Andrew Tate, yes.
Oh yeah, he's just gross. I've been having this discussion this morning with again sharing statistics around the scale of the issue that we're facing in the UK, and this guy, I've had so many of these comments this week. People just come in and they just say it's immigrants. You voted for this. Liberals voted for this. Like tough shit. You made your bed, you lie in it. And obviously, I said to him, okay, look, I get where you're coming from with especially some of the Daily Mail scaremongering newspapers. I said, but the bigger part of the issue is white men that were born here. Like there's way more of them attacking and raping women out there than there are of immigrants doing that. So why don't we talk about them? Because if we deal with them, we're going to just bring that problem down like way quicker.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to. He didn't want to acknowledge it. And then when I finally pushed him, I said, okay, yep. But why don't we talk about this now? Immediately he went to, well, I'm sure it's been studied and there's, lots of reasons why, it's society and conditioning and the male loneliness epidemic and alcohol and pornography. These are all factors as to why it's happening with white men. But when he's talking about immigrants, he was just like, they just hate women. They hate women, and they're coming into this country with their hatred of women, and that's why they do it. And I'm like,
projection much.
Yeah, but this kind of justifying and almost like saying men can't help it.
Yeah.
Same with the whole testosterone. I've got one here actually. This guy commented on one of my posts. He said, men who are frustrated use violence. Women who are frustrated use their mouth to express violence. Verbal violence leads to physical violence. Violence of men is not the issue here. It is the symptom of a deeper issue between man and woman for generations. The way he's written it, he clearly thought that he sounded really intelligent by saying
Sorry, I have my head in my hands. If anyone's listening to this, I literally... What?
Oh yeah, the whole women deserve it. Women get
like men. Well, if she's gobby, she's a gobby feminist. She deserves to get punched.
That's what happens when you push men's buttons. Men are violent. Yeah. It's all over my videos. People leaving these kind of comments, and it's like, because those two are the same, saying mean things to someone and assaulting. What's
that song we were taught when we were babies? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will ever hurt me.
Yeah.
So. But it doesn't equate, does it?
No, and they call us the more emotional gender.
Go to a football match.
Yes. Anyway, we have got to 1 o'clock. I've still got another 10, but I'm not going to add any more now because I think we've done enough.